December 1st, a lot of media reported on a drug that reversed age-related cognitive decline very quickly, within days. And these UC scientists, they were able to show just a few doses of this new drug restored cognitive function in aged mice. It reversed cognitive impairments in Down syndrome models, restored memory function after traumatic brain injury, prevented all kinds of problems related to cognitive declines that result in us, unfortunately, losing our ability to function from a neurological standpoint. So this made a lot of headline news because the drug worked very quickly. It's new, and it may be applied to human beings within the next couple years. What's available right now is plasma dilution. We have some of our supporters experimenting with this, and there are clinical trials going on where you undergo an apheresis procedure where they will take your blood and run it through an apheresis machine to remove the senile proteins, and just replace it with healthy albumin and fluids. And they're seeing some rather dramatic results in some of the initial clinical trials, but it continues to work in the animal model. There's a couple dozen trials like this that have been done in animals, and every one of them shows improved neurological function, reduced brain degeneration. This study showed reduced neuroinflammation, which is an underlying cause of virtually all of the diseases we suffer from as we grow older. And another study coming out about restoring vision. Wow, you think blind people are never going to see again, and here this group has developed a way to restore the optic nerve in a way that they were able to regrow the axons that connect the various neurons and other neuronal type cells together. And this particular treatment restored vision in mice. This could theoretically reverse the blinding effects of glaucoma or eye injury or the many other ocular disorders that occur with normal aging. And these studies are coming out one after another. So this triggered some international publicity, and they used the Yamanaka factors, 3 of them, that trigger mature cells to adopt an immature state. That means a youthful state. And as a result of that youthful state, they started to regenerate. And long-distance axon extension then was able to occur in the optic nerve. As you know, when you go in for an eye exam, when they're looking for potential glaucoma and cataracts, they give a good look to that optic nerve, because glaucoma is not defined as high intraocular pressure. It's defined as damage to your optic nerve. So there's now a potential regenerative method to reset DNA methylation patterns systemically and enable blind people potentially to see again if this research applies to human beings. And the media continues to report on the very wealthy people who are putting lots and lots of money into age reversal research. And what I was impressed with this article, it came out in September, I just saw it a couple days ago, is that Michael Bloomberg, he's indicated that he'd like to live to be 125 years of age. And that's very good because he's got lots and lots of money to support research that could very well enable him to achieve that. And if he achieves it, everyone else will get to do that also. But it's nice to see that the multi-billionaires almost uniformly are viewing aging as something they want to do something about. They want to intervene. They want to stay young or grow younger. And this is fantastic news. So in November, a study came out that made international headlines, and they used hyperbaric oxygen, and they combined it with the study subjects breathing in 100% oxygen during this treatment, and they were able to extend telomere length in a meaningful way, and they were able to reduce the number of senescent immune cells. And the media proclaimed that this enabled the reversal of aging. It got published in a prestigious journal, and then the media picked up on that journal and started reporting that the aging process has been biologically reversed for the first time. And that's not necessarily true. What they know from this study is telomere length extended about 20%, and there was a meaningful reduction in the senescent cell immune burden, but they did not prove that aging has been reversed. But this just shows you how much the media is excited about technology that can enable people to slow or reverse aging. It gets a lot of nice coverage. And the media reported on the details of where these people went in 5 days a week, by the way, for 3 straight months to get the intensive hyperbaric treatment and the high oxygen therapy, and they were able to show increased telomeres and decreased senescent cells. This is really significant. And this is the data. This is a picture of a typical hyperbaric chamber. The good news is they're building ones now that are so large you don't have to be put into a capsule. And that can be really good for claustrophobic people. But this therapy showed two major biological endpoints, and that is telomere elongation by about 20%, and then the senescent cells in the immune system, some of them anyway, reduced by 37%, improved immune markers. This is very, very significant, but what we don't know is how well it really reversed systemic aging, because they didn't do the baseline and follow-up test that we would have recommended. And these are the charts showing the improvements in immune function. Now those B cells, that's what excites me the most. B cells are bone marrow-derived cells released from the bone marrow. They convert into T cells in the thymus gland or whatever thymus tissue you may have left, and that's what gives you your immune function. And in response to this telomere lengthening therapy using hyperbaric oxygen, they were able to meaningfully improve telomere length in the B cells, and they were looking at different indicators of functionality, which were very, very exciting. And they were able to simultaneously decrease the number of certain senescent immune cells in response to the hyperbaric therapy. So this proclamation, human aging, has been reversed. And the scientists who did the study indicated that the telomeres of the trial participants were now as long, which is good, you want long telomeres, as they had been 25 years earlier. So that's really significant to think about a person 80 years of age rewinding the telomere clock so their telomeres elongate to the point where they were when they were maybe in their 60s. This is really, really tremendous, potentially even in their 50s if the therapy continues and they use ancillary telomere protecting or elongating therapies. So the treatment protocol, it was rather grueling from the standpoint of people had to have 5 daily sessions each week. And they did this for 3 months. So they had to go to the hyperbaric facility for 5 days a week, did that for 3 consecutive months, and it involved breathing in 100% oxygen by a mask for 90 minutes with some air breaks, in addition to the hyperbaric. So they really energized these people with a lot of oxygen. Each session time took about 2 hours, and if you go out and do this commercially, there are hyperbaric chambers all around the United States. The commercial price for 60 sessions is about $18,000, but that price may be going down as more and more people use these chambers, and the volume of use then reduces the cost. We're not necessarily advocating for this yet. We're just letting you know if you want to emulate it, this is how you do it. Now, the authors of the hyperbaric studies did acknowledge there are other ways to preserve telomere length, a high consumption of omega-3s, a diet rich in walnuts. Not eating walnuts as a snack, by the way. I'm talking about eating them as a meal, very healthy. Calorie restriction, healthy lifestyles. Everything we know pretty much that's healthy for us is also good for our telomeres. It helps protect telomere length. Now, there is a clinic in just north of Orlando in a place called The Villages, and our group supports them quite a bit with financial aid, and there's about 4 or 5 other major donors that put money into this charity to do age reversal research. Lots and lots of studies to see what works and what doesn't. Now, at The Villages is a hyperbaric chamber that's no longer just a capsule that the body fits in. It's like riding a bus. You go in there, you sit there with your laptop for 90 minutes and just work on your business on your laptop or whatever while you're undergoing hyperbaric therapy. This is only available in The Villages, which has, by the way, 77,000 older people who very much want to engage in hyperbaric therapy to potentially extend their telomeres, but also protect against stroke, rehabilitate from stroke. It has systemic benefits that a lot of people should consider. Now, a lot of our friends in the anti-aging community, they were critical of this study and all the media attention that it garnered. And I understand why, because they didn't document that aging was really reversed. What they were able to validate is telomeres lengthened and certain senescent cells were reduced. That's all they were able to do. And I do fault them for this. I wish they had done an extensive age management blood test panel, blood pressure measures, any kind of frailty index they could have incorporated, and then repeated that after the study was over, and we would have really known, did this result in any kind of age reversal as measured by clinical indicators such as blood pressure, lipids, glycemic markers, inflammation, or surrogate measures of aging, the DNA methylation clock, the epigenetic age that would have told us, are these people really growing younger? It wasn't done, and I can understand why there was this criticism. But here's my rebuttal to the criticism. You go back to 1903, and around the world was a picture on the front page of newspapers that a glider with a motor took off and flew 120 feet off the ground. This was unprecedented, and yet the critics said, well, you've just developed a flying toy. There's no practical use whatsoever for this toy that the Wright brothers built on a beach in North Carolina, and it's just something that people will toy with, and there'll be amateurs playing around with it, but it's never going to become a flying bus. Well, guess what? 54 years later, that Wright brothers First in Light enabled intercontinental air travel. We go from a flying glider with one engine to commercial air flights around the world. And I analogize that to what we're doing with age reversal research. The hyperbaric study showed telomere lengthening and senescent cell reduction. That's all fantastic, but we're going to see over the next couple of years the integration of other anti-aging therapies and better measurements of baseline and follow-up to see if we can really achieve these types of benefits. Now, what we've been advocating for, well, the entire time I've been around is for people to correct their underlying disease risk factors. If you've got hypertension, do what it takes to lower that, including prescription drugs if needed to get your blood pressure, for most people, under 120 systolic. Get that under there, you're going to reduce a lot of problems. You keep your glucose and your lipids, and you want to optimize your hormones. This is all the basics that people should be doing. A lot of people aren't. But this is what we would recommend for the next hyperbaric study, is you measure all of what's on level 1 and see what happens after the study is completed. So an update here on intermittent fasting, also known as time-restricted eating. More and more of us are doing that, where we'll eat about 8 hours every day and fast about 16 hours. I've been doing it for a long time, by the way. I've gotten fantastic results, and I feel great doing it. But the New England Journal of Medicine, December 26, 2019, they published a review article in which they talked about the consistency of the data, showing that if you can just confine the time you eat each day to only 6 hours and fast for 18, you trigger all kind of favorable metabolic switches that increase longevity and decrease disease incidence, including the disease of obesity. Animal models show robust benefits, consistent, robust benefits to intermittent fasting. Everything we like to do by taking a pill, you can potentially accomplish with intermittent fasting. Human studies show what we take prescription medications for, such as high lipids, high blood pressure, chronic inflammation, diabetes, called insulin resistance here. We could potentially get rid of a lot of those drugs by intermittent fasting. Great, great news, published December 26, 2019, massive review article of all the studies that have ever been done on intermittent fasting. And then JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, publishes a study in September 2020 in which they did not find benefits to intermittent fasting. Just a little bit of weight loss and no change in the metabolic risk markers. And this is what happens with science. Not every study is consistent. So we just have to look at how the study was done, maybe make some adjustments to how it was done, and hopefully be able to replicate it in a way that it does produce the results we're seeking. But the preponderance of published evidence indicates huge benefits to intermittent fasting. And in October, well, I guess we got rescued from our position because in Nature Research, another study published in which they only fasted 14 to 15 hours each day from morning till dusk. And there was some decent weight loss, 7 pounds over a 30-day period. That's a lot of weight loss, by the way, when it relates to reality, as opposed to commercials you see where people are supposed to lose 30 or 40 pounds in a month. It just doesn't happen. But nonetheless, a little bit of weight loss here, 7 pounds, and a little bit of reduction of blood pressure. But what's most significant here is in response to not eating 14 to 15 hours each day, significant increase in tumor suppressor proteins, and then a significant decrease in the pro-cancer proteins. So the idea is you may be dramatically reducing your cancer risk by intermittent fasting. They also noted the increase of a protein called calreticulin. And by a meaningful increase, 16 times, that enhances the IgG response to SARS-CoV-2. So there may be immune-enhancing benefits, anti-cancer benefits, and all kind of metabolic benefits to intermittent fasting. Cover of Vogue magazine, September 2020, they did an incredible report on all the different scientists at prestigious universities doing research aimed at slowing and reversing aging. The media continues to pick up on it, and I'm just going to go through some slides here starting around 2015. The world woke up to the fact that aging is potentially a reversible condition. And this is something that the media, one headline after another, shows how the scientific community and academia and big pharma, they're all looking for ways to induce biological age reversal. And there's all kind of different methodologies being employed: young plasma, plasma exchange, metformin, rapamycin, NAD, senolytics, all kind of ways that people are using right now to hack the code of aging to enable them to escape what normally occurs. Now, Popular Science did a nice article about the work that we're doing here, and they talked about all the different scientists who are doing the work, and they talked about me because I'm pursuing immortality. Age reversal is that first step, and then from then on, gene therapy to enable us to live for an indefinite period of time. So a cure for aging proclaimed on the cover of New Science and New Scientist. But let me explain why I'm showing you all these slides, many of which you've seen before over the years. I mean, Time magazine proclaiming that aging is no longer a dreadful inevitability. It was a special edition of Time magazine that published last year. But what is the significance of all this, including 60 Minutes? They're talking about George Church's research at Harvard, where he is using a gene modification therapy that he believes will protect us from viruses and enable us to reverse aging. He is very dedicated to making this work personally. He works around the clock at it, along with an incredible group at Harvard, and 60 Minutes gave them tremendous coverage in December 2019. But here's the significance of what I've just shown you. An individual who created the robots that make your cars, he died. Wall Street Journal does an obituary on him, and anyone who gets an obituary in the Wall Street Journal, they're usually rather significant, successful people. But how did he get the idea to use robots to make cars? Well, he read an article in 1952 in Scientific American describing a rudimentary computer program that told a machine how to carve up a piece of metal. And he went to MIT, and then he went to other places to figure out how could he develop programmable machine tools to build the cars that you drive in today, along with virtually every other industrial product. They use robots now, as you know, in the assembly line. Well, that was Mr. Inaba. He created a $40 billion company. He died at the age of 95, regrettable, but the genesis of this technology was the Scientific American article. If he didn't read that article in Scientific American, he would not have moved into this area and developed this technology. And that's what's happening, I believe, with the front cover of MIT Technology Review. Last year, we got very favorable coverage on an article. It talked about old age is over, which of course it really isn't, but it described again all the different scientists doing research, and it also talked about the odds of it working, the odds of it not working, but it gave me really nice coverage talking about RADFest, our annual age reversal conference, and my plans to move all of this forward with back then was called the Perpetual Clinical Trial. It's now been renamed the Vitality and Aging Research Studies, both intervention studies and the longevity studies. So the dilemma today, we target one pathway of aging in most of the clinical trials, and we see a little bit of benefit, but we're looking for meaningful improvements in health span and longevity. Solution: intervene with a cocktail of treatments designed to improve the health as measured by markers of biological age. And that's going to be done through the interventions of multiple therapies, not a single therapy. We're talking about 4, 5, 6, 7 therapies administered in a sequential order in an attempt to meaningfully reverse aging in people. Not just improve biomarkers and clinical measures. We want people to feel better. We want to see their frailty index go in reverse so that they're not as vulnerable to falls. If they do falls, we want stronger bones so they're less vulnerable to fractures. Put everything together, we need to meaningfully reverse the aging process with a combination. It's simply a matter of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. I feel we are so far more advanced with age reversal technology than the Wright brothers were It's unreal. But we can't wait 54 years for it to become a commercial reality. The mandate that I have put together, and it's based on the fact that we have lost supporters since I started this in 2015, started the Age Reversal Project. People want to reverse their age. Some of them have died, and I know how they died. I follow up on every single death to find out why are people who want to live forever dying prematurely. So the new dictate, so to speak, coming from me is that no one who participates in an age reversal program backed by hard science is allowed to needlessly die. Certain deaths, of course, we can't prevent. No more needless deaths. And the big one out there are our supporters. They are older, and older people, unfortunately, have vascular insufficiency. They have a lot of degeneration in their circulatory system. So they have heart attacks and strokes. Now, they delayed those by decades by eating healthy, by exercising, by maybe taking the right nutrients, drugs, hormones. They delayed it. But at some point, they do suffer these calamities. And what I'm advocating is when you get your blood test results, don't just look at them and put them in a drawer. Correct every single underlying risk factor, be it LDL, small dense LDL, be it a hormone deficiency, be it blood pressure, whatever is a risk factor in your body, correct that so I don't get another call from a family member saying my loved one is no longer alive. And I spend days going through their medical records, finding out what did they do wrong. And in every single case, they did something wrong. A lot of it just delayed. So harsh reality is if we're going to achieve our objectives, we need to have level 1, the foundation of optimal health, optimized, and then we move into level 2. If we don't optimize level 1, it's just not going to work. I can tell you that. And also, you might spend a lot of money on some of this if you're not in these clinical trials. I know people who spent tens of thousands of dollars and then they don't get the benefit they're looking for. And then I look at level 1 and they're a metabolic mess. I say, well, why didn't you correct your underlying risk factors first before you went down to Panama or somewhere else and spent a lot of money on something that maybe only produced modest, if any, results in what you were seeking to do? We don't have time to delay age reversal. We grow older by the second. It's a scary phenomenon. People who want to live forever are making bad decisions. Sumner Redstone donated a lot of money to charities, some of it to science, but you know, he never put money into specific projects aimed at reversing his aging process. He wanted to live forever, boasted he would do it, and he wound up dying at age 97 from dementia complications. He's worth a lot of money. He could have supported us early. He just didn't know. I'm not faulting him. I'm just saying a lot of wealthy people who want to live, they're making mistakes and they're dying. And this is one of the mistakes. People who are hanging by a thread who decide, I guess I'll call Bill and see what kind of age reversal program he has. And in many, many cases, I have to tell them, I hate to say it, you've got so many comorbidities. You've got so many chronic underlying illnesses that, well, you're not qualified for our studies. You can read what we write and follow it if you want, but we're not going to let you into our clinical trials because you may not survive. You literally may not survive the treatment. That's kind of scary. So delay could equal long-term failure. So again, our objective is to combine the age reversal interventions. Many of these are prescription items, but we want to put them together so people can at least have the best opportunity to live a little longer, maybe live a lot longer, or reverse aging completely. And I'm just going to conclude with a study that we helped fund a number of years ago, and it dealt with the bowhead whale. And what's interesting is their maximum natural lifespan is 268 years. And bear in mind, natural lifespan means you don't have access to any kind of medical interventions. So you're going to be really tough to survive out there in the ocean for 268 years, and if one little thing goes wrong with you, you die. And what we did is we sequenced the genome of the bowhead whale to identify the genes that help explain their long lifespan and their apparent resistance to diseases. And what we were able to do is take that genetic sequence and donate it to anybody who wanted it to seek if they could use that genetic code to reprogram human gene expression patterns to enable us to live to 268 years or longer and reduce our risk of horrific diseases. And I'm going to conclude with a New England Journal of Medicine cover. It was an editorial called Getting Comfortable with Risk, and describes who we are, the daring innovators, the disruptive thinkers, and the volunteer patients. That's us, by the way, and I'm one of them. The volunteers who put our lives on the line in order to advance medical science and hopefully reverse our aging process. But without us, very little medical progress could be made. So thank you, New England Journal of Medicine, for endorsing our vitality and aging research and everything we're doing in various groups to defeat biological aging.